Hello and welcome to the morning sports briefing here on New Zealand Sports Radio. Hi, I'm Paul and I'll be your host this morning. In the news today, we'll be covering off on international cricket with a test match going on between Sri Lanka and the West Indies, as well as one-day international action between New Zealand, Bangladesh and India and England as well. In the rugby, we've got a ban news. And we'll bring up to speed how Paul Cole is going in the Black Ball Open over there in Cairo in the squash. I've got NBA action with basketball, football with the A-League. This is your best way to start the day up to speed with all of the important sports news. So in the rugby, we've got news that Kurt Eklund has been suspended for 3 weeks for his suplex or tip tackle or clear out really on Sevu Reece during that Blues loss to the Crusaders. We're still waiting to hear on how Ofa Tuangafasi's hearing goes for his sighting as well. Also, congratulations to Parry Parkinson, who has re-signed with the Highlanders for another year down there, so he'll be there for 2022 as well. Good news for him. Moving on then to the football, and in the A-League, no action yesterday, but this evening we do have 2 games. Perth Glory will take on Sydney FC, but before that, Wellington Phoenix will take on Melbourne Victory at 9 p.m. Or 5 past 9 p.m. Do join the Knicks newsletter as we have a watch-along here, or a watching party. And we will not be streaming the actual game, but the boys will be watching the game and talking about it live here on New Zealand Sports Radio. So you can catch that on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or the recording or as a podcast as well. Also, this evening at 8 p.m, we will have the standoff show with the we're looking at our NRL show, and they will be looking at the squads that have been selected for this next round of the NRL, with some interesting selections or some tough selections for the Warriors in that one. On to the squash, and yesterday during the show we found out that Paul Cole had made it through to the quarter finals by beating Gregory Galtier 11-3, 11-7, 7-11 and 11-4 to take on the Egyptian Marwan El Shabagi. And just now it's come through that unfortunately Paul Cole has lost that one, has lost out to the 6th seed there in a marathon game. The first set went 12-10. Paul Cole came back in the next. Paul Cole won the first one, lost the next 2, 7-11, 9-11. He came back to win the 4th set, 11-3, but in the decided set he lost 9-11. More to come on that one. His next encounter is the Manchester Open in mid-April, and we'll, if there's more news, we'll bring that to you tomorrow. We won't bring that to tomorrow. Tomorrow, unfortunately, the morning sports briefing will be having a day off. Unfortunately, my job means that I get starting early tomorrow, so I can't do the morning sports briefing. But any extra news we have on that, we'll bring you on Friday morning. Moving on then over to the NBA, and the Rockets went into their game against the Raptors with the 20-game losing streak, but that came to an end with the Rockets winning the game 117-99 in that one. But it took some performance from John Wall. He scored a triple-double. That means he got 11 rebounds, 10 assists, and 19 points in that one. He was also helped by Sterling Brown getting a double-double with 10 rebounds and 20 points, and all the starters did well. Tate got 22 points, House 12 points, and Wood 19 points. So a real team effort there for the Rockets to beat the Toronto Raptors and get their first win in a long time. Other key results from yesterday: the Clippers beat the Hawks 119 to 110. The Bucks beat the Pacers 140 to 113. The Jazz also got the win 120 to 95 in that one. So a lot of the top teams coming through with wins. That means on the Eastern Conference, you've got the 76ers ahead of the Nets and the Bucks. Over on the Western side, the Jazz lead the Suns and the Lakers there, with the Clippers closing in on the Lakers on that side. Remember, the Lakers with LeBron James injured at the moment. Looking at the games coming up today, we have a further 6 games today, with the Pelicans taking on the Lakers at 12:30 p.m. or just after midday here in New Zealand time. Let's get into the meat of it then, which is our cricket news today. First up, Sri Lanka versus the West Indies in that test match. After scoring 169, Sri Lanka bowled out with the West Indies for 271 in their first innings. For the West Indies, the top scorer was Rakeem Cornwall, batting down in 9th in the innings, scoring 61 there for the team. So the tail wagged certainly to help the West Indies. With the West Indies at 7 for 771, the Sri Lanka would have been hoping for a fairly small lead for the West Indies. Not to be. They've already lost their captain, Karuthan Tane, for 3 in their chase, but their other, Thurmane is on 50 not out, and Fernando 60 not out. They reached 120 for 1, meaning they currently lead by 18 runs with 9 wickets remaining in the second innings. India took on England in their first one-day international. India posted a score of 317 as they went in to bat first. Dhawan scored 98 at the top of the innings. Kohli also continued some good form with a 56 there. And Rahul and Badane really sped things up towards the end of the innings, where they won 62 and 58 not out, those two there. For England, Ben Stokes led the bowling, taking 3 wickets in that one. And as we discussed on Swinging from the Hip on Monday evening, again, he didn't bowl his full allotment of overs, even though he was the most economical bowler for England. Some question marks there around the captaincy, you've got to say. England, in reply, made a very good start with Jason Roy and Johnny Bairstow at the top of the innings with a 135-run opening partnership. Roy out eventually for 46. Johnny Bairstow scored a 94. But England were all bowled out in the 43rd over for 251. Krishnan taking 4 wickets there for India. Thakur with another 3 and Kumar with 2 as they won the game by 66 runs. Down at down in Christchurch, Bangladesh took on New Zealand in the second one-day international. Bangladesh obviously losing the first one quite comfortably, but against New Zealand. They put a much better fist of it together yesterday though, with Linton Das was out in the second over for naught, but Iqbal at the top of the innings scored 78 and had a couple of good partnerships with Shakur, who scored 32, and Rahim with 34. Mohammed Minthu then took over the reins and scored 73 and not out as Bangladesh reached 271 in that one. Carl Jamieson took what looked initially like a very good caught and bowled, but it was claimed that he hadn't taken control before putting his hand down with the ball touching the ground, and that meant that it was called not out by the VAR. A bit of Carl Jamieson surprised by that one. He thought he had taken it, He was the most economical of the bowlers at just 3.6 runs per over. In response then, and New Zealand set a target of 272. Martin Guptill, his normal start there with 3 fours and a 6, was out for 20. Henry Nicholls didn't do that normal job of anchoring the innings. He was out early as well. But Devon Conway scored 72 before being run out, and then Tom Latham, the wicket-keeping captain there, taking the responsibility on his shoulders, scoring 110 to see New Zealand home with just over in the 49th over. He got some help from James Neesham and Daryl Mitchell, who were there to win the game with 6 balls to spare. 10 balls to spare in that one. So a much better performance put together by Bangladesh in the second one-day international against New Zealand there. You have now started the day the best way up to with all the important sports news. As I say, the morning sports briefing is going to take a break tomorrow, but we'll be back on Friday morning at 7 a.m. Don't forget to join us tonight at 8 p.m. for the Standoff Show and at 9 p.m. for the Knicks newsletter.